Happy Tuesday. It is February 3rd, 2026. I want you to just take a second, look at your calendar at that stack of notifications piling up on your screen. Does it feel like the world of work is just mutating faster than you can possibly update your LinkedIn profile?
Oh, absolutely. It's not just vertigo, it's future shock. I think for a lot of people, 2026 feels like the year where all those, sci-fi predictions we heard about 5 or 6 years ago
Right.
finally hardened into a very tangible and almost mundane reality.
Mundane is a really interesting word for it, considering what we're about to talk about. The future isn't some distant horizon anymore, is it?
Not at all.
It is literally happening right now, this morning, and that is why today's deep dive is going to be, I think, essential. We are pulling apart a core document called 10 Trends Revolutionizing the Work World in 2026.
But we should be clear, this isn't some, clickbait listicle written by a chatbot.
Right? No, this is a heavy-hitting distillation of data. We're talking figures from the World Economic Forum, the McKinsey Global Institute, and some really dense peer-reviewed studies.
Yeah, from places like Nature Human Behavior and the Harvard Business Review.
Exactly.
And our mission for today is to move past the buzzwords. I mean, we see terms like AI and hybrid work thrown around constantly.
All the time.
But we need to understand the structural forces underneath. We're unpacking how technology, psychology, and economics are colliding to completely redefine what productivity even means.
And what having a job even looks like in 2026.
Yeah, that too.
So let's dive right into the deep end. The first major shift in the data is something that I think everyone is feeling, whether they love it or, like me, have a healthy dose of anxiety about it.
Let me guess. AI.
The document calls it the era of collaborative AI, or the co-pilot for everything.
This is massive. If you remember back in 2023 or 2024, the narrative was just pure fear.
Oh yeah, the robots are coming for your job.
It was AI is coming for your job. Learn to code or perish. But here we are in 2026, and the data tells a much more nuanced story. It's not really about replacement. It's about ubiquity. It's about the shift to AI as a constant, always-on collaborator.
Okay, but collaborator is a very polite word.
Yeah.
What does that actually look like in the daily grind? Because I feel like for a lot of us, it just means more notifications to manage.
It's a valid concern, but let's look at the productivity mechanics. There was a pivotal study by MIT and Stanford referenced here that showed generative AI increases knowledge worker productivity by anywhere from, 14% to 37%.
Wow.
But the interesting part isn't the speed, it's the distribution. It specifically helps less experienced workers catch up to the experts and faster.
So it's a leveler. It sort of flattens the hierarchy.
Precisely. But here is the catch, and this is where it gets tricky for anyone listening who wants to stay employed. The critical new skill isn't prompt engineering.
It's already over.
That's already obsolete. The new skill is called orchestration.
Orchestration. That sounds fancy. What does that mean practically?
It means the shift from doing to directing. Think about it. If you have an AI that can draft the email, write the code snippets, summarize the meeting, your job is no longer to do those tasks.
Your job is to manage the AI doing the tasks.
Your job is to evaluate them. You have to know how to ask, how to refine, and critically, how to integrate those outputs into a complex workflow.
That actually sounds more exhausting than just doing the work.
In some ways, it is. It's a higher cognitive load. You aren't just a writer or a coder anymore. You are an editor-in-chief and a strategist. You have to spot the hallucinations, the subtle biases, the logic gap.
The things the machine gets wrong.
Exactly. It requires a level of critical thinking that rote work never did.
So we're trading physical or repetitive mental labor for high-stress judgment calls.
That's a fair way to put it. You're moving up the value chain, but the air is thinner up there. And the source material takes this a step further into territory that, honestly, challenges our whole definition of teamwork. We need to talk about human-AI hybrid teams and, brace yourself, cyborgs.
I saw that in the notes and I almost choked on my coffee. Cyborgs. It feels like we've jumped straight into a dystopian novel. Are we really using that term in a business context?
We are. And in this context, it's defining a new kind of organizational unit.
Yeah.
We are seeing teams explicitly composed of three elements: humans, autonomous AI agents.
So software bots that run on their own.
Right. And humans using cognitive wearables.
Whoa, hold on. Cognitive wearables. Are we talking about Fitbits for your brain? Because that feels incredibly invasive.
It's a lot more advanced than a Fitbit. We are moving from the experimental phase to the integrative phase of brain-computer interfaces. The source explicitly mentions things like Neuralink.
Oh.
Now, We aren't quite at the plug into the matrix stage for the average accountant, but for high-stakes roles traders, specialized surgeons, air traffic controllers, the interface between human thought and digital action is blurring.
That is wild, and honestly a little terrifying. If I'm on a team with a bot that never sleeps and a guy who is literally wired into the mainframe, how do I even compete? And who manages that mess?
That's the friction point. You can't manage that team with a standard weekly stand-up. That's why we're seeing the rise of a new C-suite role, the Chief of Human-AI Collaboration.
Which sounds like the hardest job in the world.
It might be. Companies are realizing they need a specific executive to handle the ethics, the protocols, the communication styles of this mixed workforce.
Right.
Because think about it. How you motivate a human is based on purpose, salary, empathy. How you optimize an autonomous agent is based on code and constraints.
And when the AI agent starts hallucinating or drifting off task,
Yes, they do.
you need a protocol, not a pep talk.
Exactly.
I can just imagine the HR complaints. My AI colleague is gaslighting me. Or the autonomous agent deleted my project because it thought it was inefficient.
It's a real issue. Algorithmic personality clashes are a real thing now. But it's not just about who or what we work with, it's about the environment itself. This brings us to the next major shift: extended realities.
Is this finally the end of the Zoom grid? Because I think we all have significant PTSD from staring at those little boxes for the last 6 years.
The grid is dying. Immersive collaboration is the replacement. Platforms from Meta and Microsoft have finally matured past that clunky headset phase. We aren't just talking about video chat, we're talking about spatial simulation.
Give me a use case that isn't just, playing video games at work.
Okay, take the stat from the source. Using extended reality, or XR, for design and engineering reduces cycle times by 30%.
30%. That's huge.
That is money in the bank. Imagine you are an architect.
Yeah.
Instead of sharing a screen, you and your structural engineer who is in Tokyo are walking through the building at full scale.
You're in it.
You can reach out, move a wall, see how the light hits the lobby at 4 p.m. You aren't looking at the work, you are in the work.
That does sound better than, can you see my screen? Can you hear me now? But it begs the question of where we physically are. We have cyborgs and holograms, but I'm still sitting in a chair. Let's talk about radical hybridization.
Right. I think we can finally say the return to office wars of 2024 are over.
And who won?
The data won. The source calls it intentional presence. We have moved past the binary fight of home office versus the office. The mandates failed because they were arbitrary.
Come in on Tuesdays because I said so.
Exactly. That builds resentment, not culture. A 2024 meta-analysis in the Journal of Applied Psychology confirmed that the optimal model for productivity and retention is 2 to 3 days in the office.
Okay.
But, and this is the crucial part, it's for specific rituals.
So not just commuting for 45 minutes to sit in a cubicle and put noise-canceling headphones on.
If you are doing that, your company has failed. The office is becoming a connection hub. Studios, labs, design thinking rooms, it's a social space.
So it's for collaboration.
Right. If you need to do deep, focused orchestration of your AI agents, you do that at home. You come to the office to argue, to brainstorm, to bond.
I like that distinction. It makes the commute an investment rather than a tax. But the source also mentions a new persona emerging from this flexibility, the corporate digital nomad.
This is a fascinating evolution. A few years ago, digital nomad meant a freelancer with a laptop in a hostel in Bali.
Right.
Now it's senior VPs. Companies are allowing employees to work from any country, often facilitating tax and schedule adjustments.
Wait, really? Because the tax law has got to be a nightmare.
It is. But the talent war is fiercer. If you want the best AI orchestrator in the world, and she wants to live in Lisbon for 3 months and then Buenos Aires for 3 months, you make it happen. You adjust the payroll.
So it's a perk.
It's becoming a standard perk for top-tier talent.
That sounds like the dream. But, and there is always a but with you. If I'm in Buenos Aires and my boss is in New York and I'm working weird hours, how do they know I'm actually working? This brings us to the dark side. Surveillance versus results.
This is where the culture war is being fought right now. We are seeing the death of presentism. For decades, managers conflated butt in seat with being productive.
That is over.
It's over. The London School of Economics released research showing that result-based companies have 32% less turnover and 20% more innovation.
Those numbers are impossible to ignore, but we still hear horror stories about keystroke loggers and eye-tracking software.
We do, but that is actually in decline. It's legally risky, especially with new privacy laws. and it just destroys trust. The mouse jiggler era is ending because smart companies are moving to OKR's objectives and key results.
So judge me on what I deliver, not how long it takes.
Exactly. It's a valuation of deep work. If you can finish your project in 4 hours of intense, high-level orchestration, why should you have to wiggle your mouse for another 4 hours just to look busy? The workplace of 2026 rewards output.
That sounds liberating, but it also sounds like high pressure. If there's no credit for trying or being there, you really have to deliver.
You do. There's nowhere to hide.
So, if the where and the how are changing, let's talk about the what. What are we actually hired to do? The document talks about the fragmentation of careers and the gig economy 2.0.
This is the unbundling of the job.
Yeah.
We are seeing a revolution in skill-based hiring. LinkedIn data from 2024 showed a 45% increase in hiring based on specific skills rather than job titles or degrees.
That is a fast shift.
It is rapid. And what it means is that the idea of a job as a monolith, where you belong to one company for 10 years, is eroding.
It's breaking apart.
A professional in 2026 might act more like a movie studio contractor. You work on 3 or 4 projects for different companies simultaneously.
So you're not an employee in the traditional sense.
You're a specialist mercenary selling a specific skill set, sustainable data analysis, to multiple bidders.
That sounds great for freedom, but terrible for stability. What about health insurance? What about a sense of belonging?
That is the trade-off. You get autonomy and potentially higher rates, but you lose the safety net. And it changes education, too. We are seeing badges and verified micro-credentials, often backed by blockchain, gaining real weight against traditional university degrees.
So the 4-year degree is losing its monopoly.
For many fields, yes. Why spend 4 years learning theory when the tech changes every 6 months? You need the micro-credential that proves you can do the specific thing right now.
That is empowering, but it also creates this hamster wheel effect. You have to keep learning constantly just to stay employable. Which brings us to the concept of transversal skills.
Yes.
If technical knowledge expires like milk, what actually stays relevant?
That is the million-dollar question. If the AI can code better than you, and the software updates every week, what is your lasting value? The World Economic Forum's Future of Jobs 2025 report gives us the answer.
Great.
And it's surprisingly human.
Okay.
It prioritizes analytical thinking, creativity, resilience, and social intelligence.
We used to call those soft skills.
We have to undervalue them. Now they are the power skills. The source talks about cognitive adaptability as the new gold standard. It's the ability to learn, unlearn, and relearn. If you are rigid, you break.
If you are adaptable, you thrive.
Exactly.
Cognitive adaptability, it sounds like a superpower, but let's be real. All this adapting, orchestrating, and relearning.
It sounds exhausting. I feel tired just talking about it.
It is exhausting. The cognitive load of 2026 is higher than it was in 2020. And that is why we have to talk about the human element. The data shows a massive pivot toward well-being as a KPI.
A key performance indicator.
Yeah.
Okay, I have to be cynical here. Does this mean my boss actually cares about my mental health? Or is my happiness just another metric on a dashboard?
It's a bit of both, but mostly the latter. The World Health Organization recognizes burnout as an occupational phenomenon.
Right.
Companies aren't just being nice, they are looking at the P&L statement. Science magazine published studies linking emotional well-being to a 12% productivity gain.
So they monetize burnout.
Effectively, yes. If you burn out, you are an asset that has failed. So we are seeing executive dashboards that track aggregate well-being metrics. Companies are hiring emotional coaches. So we're moving from wellness as a yoga class to wellness as a risk management strategy.
That's a great way to put it.
It's cold, but if it gets me a better work-life balance, I guess I'll take it. And speaking of balance, privacy plays a huge role here. The source mentions privacy as a premium benefit.
This is one of the most interesting class divides emerging. In a world where data is everything, privacy has become a luxury good.
Wait, explain that. Privacy is a luxury.
Think about it. Lower-level workers are often subject to more algorithmic management metrics, tracking, efficiency scores. But top talent, they are gravitating toward high-privacy work environments.
What does that mean?
These are places that guarantee no digital surveillance and, crucially, partial ownership of the creative data you generate.
So if I'm a top-tier creator, I can demand that the AI doesn't swallow my work.
Exactly. You retain rights. It's backed by things like the EU AI Act, but it's becoming a negotiation point. I will work for you, but you cannot track my keystrokes, and you cannot train your model on my personal drafts.
That is fascinating. The ultimate status symbol isn't a corner office. It's the right to be unobserved.
Right. To be invisible to the machine.
That feels like a very human demand. And speaking of human demands, let's talk about the final trend, purpose and pay.
This is the generational shift hitting the balance sheet. Deloitte found in 2024 that 40% of millennials and Gen Z will only work for companies with a demonstrable positive environmental impact.
Wow.
They will literally turn down money if the values don't align.
That is a huge chunk of the workforce drawing a line in the sand.
It is. And companies have stopped rolling their eyes and started changing their compensation models. We're seeing bonuses and promotions explicitly linked to ESG metrics, environmental, social, and governance goals.
So saving the world is actually part of the job description now.
It's baked into the bonus structure. You don't just get paid for sales, you get paid for hitting your carbon reduction targets or your diversity hiring goals. If you miss the purpose metric, you miss the payout.
So putting this all together, we have cyborgs, we have nomads jumping borders, we have micro-credentials replacing degrees, and we have emotional coaches trying to keep us from snapping. It feels chaotic. How do we synthesize this?
It is chaotic, but if we look at the big picture, there's a paradox here that I find really hopeful. The more technology advances, the more AI takes over the rote tasks, the data analysis, the scheduling, the more valuable the deeply human skills become.
Because the AI can't do empathy?
It can mimic it, but it can't feel it. Creativity, genuine empathy, ethical thinking, complex negotiation. These are the things that are hardest to automate.
So the future isn't about becoming more like a machine to keep up?
No, it's about doubling down on being human.
I love that. The robot uprising actually forces us to be better humans.
In a way, yes. The source describes the future not as a dystopia or a utopia, but as a complex mosaic. The successful professional in 2026 is a perpetual learner.
Right.
You are constantly building that mosaic of skills, experiences, and connections.
It puts the responsibility squarely on us to keep evolving. But before we wrap up, I want to leave our listeners with one final provocative thought from the source material. It's about mental health in these blurred lines.
This is the challenge I want everyone to wrestle with tonight. We've talked about working from anywhere at any time with AI co-pilots always on. The technology makes us omnipresent. The question is, if we can work from anywhere at any time in this hyper-connected world, how do we protect the fundamental human right to not be available?
The right to disconnect.
Exactly. Not just as a company policy, but as a cultural practice. In a world of infinite connection, the ultimate luxury, and perhaps the ultimate necessity for our sanity, is the ability to simply unplug.
To not be a node in the network for a few hours, that is something to chew on while you check your email. Or actually, hopefully while you don't check your email tonight.
Let's hope for the latter.
Thank you so much for guiding us through this roadmap of 2026. It's equal parts terrifying and exhilarating. To our listener, we hope you feel a little less vertigo and a little more prepared to navigate this cyborg, nomad, purpose-driven world. Stay curious, keep learning, and get ready, because in our next deep dive, we are going to look at how to actually hack your personal productivity using these new tools without losing your mind. You won't want to miss it.
See you then.
Bye for now.